This is the Book Legion Podcast, where we review thought-provoking books to give our Legionnaires the knowledge they need to dominate the next level of their life.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on the Book Legion this week. My name is Tyser Evans. This week I'm going to be reviewing Jordan B. Peterson's book, The 12 Rules for Life. So if you aren't familiar with who Jordan B. Peterson is, he is a clinical psychologist who is based in Canada. That's where he was born and raised in Canada. He's been a professor, though, at Harvard and the University of Toronto. Now, several years ago, Canada had put some different laws into place regarding speech. And basically saying that if someone identifies as a certain gender, then you must call them by the pronoun that they identify with, not how they are biologically born or how they biologically are. Jordan B. Peterson fundamentally had a problem with this, not so much anything to do with transgender people or the LGBT community, nothing to do with that. He had a fundamental problem with people saying what you must say or what you cannot say in dictating around free speech. And so he made some videos that went very viral and put him into the limelight. I feel kind of bad for the guy in some regards because a lot of people think he's alt-right and he's this crazy conspiracy kind of conservative guy, which is the farthest thing from the truth. So although the legislation might have been well-intentioned, Jordan B. Peterson saw it as a slippery slope that if you take someone's freedoms and you fine them for what they say or what they cannot say, you're starting to dictate speech, then you can keep going down this slippery slope until you have a totalitarian style government or authoritarian style government where you have basically the thought police that George Orwell talked about in 1984. So I'm not going to get into the politicalness or the political correctness one way or the other, leave my opinion completely out of it, but that is how Jordan B. Peterson got really well known virally across the globe. Now he's gone on a speaking tour. He put out this first book, I think about 2.5 years ago, The 12 Rules for Life. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure it's 2018. Yeah, 2018. I was excited to read it because anytime I've ever heard him talk, I really resonate with his message. His message is always very Joseph Campbell-ish. He really comes from, be the hero of your own journey, right? He studied psychology, obviously, but he's also studied a lot of mythology and where our stories have come from and how they're relevant today. So the book was written to be basically a moral compass. He feels that our generation is getting lost. He doesn't like the direction, the way it's going, that people don't have a lot of self-accountability. So he wanted to set forth 12 rules for life that if you follow them to a varying degree, it will change the trajectory of your life, which a lot of people needed to hear. And it has. I've watched lots of videos on Jordan B. Peterson, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I know the book has changed a lot of people's lives. So what I'm going to do is cover my three biggest takeaways or chapters that I enjoyed the most, or at least resonated with me the most. So the first one I want to talk about is rule number 3. And rule number 3 is make friends with people who want the best for you. And why I love this is because so many of us get stuck in life because of the people we're surrounded with. We have this grand vision, we have these grand dreams for our life, but oftentimes we're not conscious of who are our people that are around us. And the people around us that talk in our ear, that they aren't doing anything big. They aren't living their dream. And a lot of times the people who aren't living their dreams, people who are habitually negative, they're going to be sometimes the people that are closest to you, like people in your family, your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, maybe your parents, your best friends. It could even be your significant other, right? And when you're surrounded by people who aren't living up to their full potential, oftentimes when you try to accelerate and start to live your dream. Maybe it's the business you always want to start. Maybe it was online, or maybe you always wanted to get a certification in yoga, or maybe you want to start meditating more. The moment you start doing those things around people who don't want to do better for themselves or aren't currently living up to their full potential, hits an insecurity with them. And when you hit those people's insecurity, then you'll start hearing things like, well, why are you trying to do so much? You're never going to accomplish that. Especially if you're trying to make more money. Money is the root of all evil. Money will never make you happy, right? Who are you to, go and teach other people yoga or meditation? Well, all that is just a projection of their own self-limitations throwing onto you so you stay small. And so what Jordan really talks a lot about in this chapter, what I love, is that you really only want to surround yourself with people who are rooting for you, people that want to see you win, people that want to see you live your dream. Not only do they want to see you live your dream, they're actively pushing you and cheering you on as you're moving forward to become the best version of yourself. And too many of us, again, we just get caught up with friends and family that no longer serve our higher self, our best version of ourselves. And unfortunately, you don't have to get rid of them, but for me, I had to distance myself. I had to distance myself from those friends and family members that habitually surround themselves in negativity and drama. Is the best thing I've ever done. As I got the toxicity out of my life has only got incrementally better, and now I only surround myself with people who cheer me on and want to see me win. The second rule I want to talk about is rule number 6, which is set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And the reason why this just resonated with me is because of all the shit we just went through with this last political election here in 2020 in the States, is that you just saw so many people throwing stones at Trump and Biden and Republicans and Democrats. It was sickening. It was really sickening. It showed really just how sick we are as a society, watching all of the hate that was just spewed. And so I think this chapter really serves to remind you that none of us are perfect. All of us are imperfectly perfect. And don't go out there and start casting stones at Democrats or at Republicans or at people that are too short or too tall or too skinny or too fat or have tattoos or don't have tattoos, unless you are a perfect human being. And nobody is perfect. So, get your shit straight, focus on you, stay in your fucking lane. Don't worry about what other people are doing. We're so quick to judge based on emotion, not thinking through, I don't know what that person's been through. I've never walked a day in their lives. I don't understand where they're coming from. And that's really what we should be trying to do, especially, this last election, it's like reaching across the aisle. We hear about, bipartisan this, no one's bipartisan anymore. It's all identity politics. And politics is the lowest common denominator to talk about because it resonates with everybody. But, imagine if we would have just reach across the aisle. Well, hey, I want to know, why do you feel that way? Why is this issue too important to you? And then openly listen objectively to what that person is saying, because they're coming from their own narrative. They're coming from their own story, right? Your story's not perfect. Their story's not perfect, but you might be able to find a middle ground. But when you come at it with such velocity and emotion, there can never be any synchronicity in the middle. So what this chapter really resonated with me is like, hey man, I got to get my own house in order, right? Like, I'm a flawed human being. I've got to work on me before I can go out and start criticizing the world. So I think a lot of us need to take account, what type of father are you or wife? What type of son or daughter? What type of employee are you? What type of business owner are you? What do you contribute to the community? So focus on that. Like, what are you doing, right? It's like, your house, are you perfect? Is your family perfect? Are you a perfect role model for society? I don't know anybody that is. So, you know what I mean? Focus on your stuff at your house, with your family, with your individualness. Take accountability for who you are, your flaws and your faults, and work on that. It kind of alleviates you then wanting to criticize other people. And again, if you catch yourself criticizing others, it's because it's a mirror image of what you don't like in yourself. And the more you come at it from that perspective, I'm criticizing that person. And if you stop and you take a step back and you're like, I'm criticizing them because it's something I see in them I don't like about myself, you're like, shit, I have no right to criticize them because I'm flawed in that same way. And that's why it upsets me subconsciously. So rule number 6 just really hit home, especially what we've been through with Corona, masks. I mean, you could go on and on about the crazy polarization that we've had within society over the last year. And the last rule I want to talk about is rule number 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. And there's a great quote that I often think of, is that comparison is the theft of joy. And the more that you compare yourself to people on social media, on Instagram, your neighbor, your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law, your cousin, your cousin's best friend, oh, he's got this brand new car. I always think it's weird when people go like, oh yeah, my cousin's best friend's wife's sister's got a brand new Bentley. Like who cares? Like, go get your own Bentley. Who cares? So people get so caught up, and social media has been a huge detriment to our society. I think this is why you're starting to see younger kids, become more clinically depressed and have anxiety earlier on, because they become a lot more self-aware with shit that doesn't really matter. And so for us, I think the more that we really just look at who was I yesterday and today did I become 1% better. If your focus is on just making myself 1% better every single day, then you're not worried about comparing yourself to your neighbors or to people in your family, right? Or to your fellow colleagues or whatnot. So it's always about being 1% better. So always remember, the only person you ever want to compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. And if every day you're getting a little bit better, you're expanding your growth, you're expanding your growth, you're expanding your growth, and that's all that matters. You're never going to be able to be somebody else. You're never going to be able to have their skills, talents, passions, hobbies, right? None of that's ever going to line up. What you need to go is go inward, find out who you are, focus on your passions, your creativity, your goals, your aspirations, and just get a little bit better every single day. And I actually have a tattoo that some of you on YouTube can see. It says Gashla, which means every day in Gaelic. And that's a reminder to myself, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. All that matters are my actions, my deeds, my thoughts, my intentions today, and I have to be better than I was yesterday, especially when it comes to being a husband, a father, a member of community, member of earth, member of society, right? So those were my 3 big takeaways from Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. He just released a new book, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. It just came out, I think, in the last 2 months. I'll post a link to both books in the comments if you want to buy both. The books are about 400 pages, so you'd have some serious reading to do. It is very thought-provoking. This book took me a long time to get through. Usually I read one a week. This one I was kind of reading on the side for a couple of months because I really wanted to digest the amount of information, because within every chapter there's little sub-chapters and there's just tremendous takeaways. I mean, you can go through a paragraph and you can sit and contemplate on it for some time. So I highly recommend it if you're someone who's looking for a way to get your life in order and you're wanting to get back on track and you're looking at ways to take more accountability, but you don't have a mentor to really help you because maybe you've got toxic family members, maybe you've got a toxic spouse. This book, the $20 or so you're going to spend on it, will help be a guideline for your life with getting your shit in line. So again, the book link will be in the show notes, so you can scroll right down and purchase the book. If you guys haven't done so, please subscribe to the podcast or YouTube channel. I'd really appreciate the support. If you could, share with like-minded people at Book Legion, at the Book Legion on all social media. If you want to tag me, let me know that you're listening. I'd really appreciate it. But without further ado, thanks so much, guys.